Very good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to yet another uLaw webinar. Today's webinar is going to focus on solo power. It's going to talk about, we're going to explore the opportunity that we have today as legal professionals to be entrepreneurs. We're going to talk about the risks entrepreneurs take, talk about entrepreneurship in general, and then highlight how being a solo practitioner embraces entrepreneurship and the tools and the aids that you have today that can help you automate some of those business processes that you capture. And we're also going to look at how uLaw helps in accomplishing many of those automation aspects. We're also going to talk about other tools that you have available to help you through this journey. Today's webinar is not accredited for CPD. We do have our CPD session next Friday. And so today is, again, going to be yet another fun-filled webinar. It's going to be one of those topics that our own participants of these webinars has requested for. Again, it's not accredited for CPD. I just want to make sure you're aware of that. But I would like for this session to be as informational and as well as for a lot of Q&A. Would sincerely appreciate if you could use the chat window to ask any questions that you may have about the session and also share with us your insight. Okay, so today's topic, solo power. We're going to talk about practice management, legal accounting aids for solo practitioners, also touch upon entrepreneurship to begin with. Okay, so as every uLaw webinar has an agenda, we're going to talk about a lot about entrepreneurship, a lot of solo practitioners that work with uLaw. We've seen them, we've spoken to them, and we're seeing that becoming the trend across North America, where there have been many surveys understanding the power of the emergence of solo entrepreneurial individuals as well as solo practitioners within the legal space. Okay, we're going to talk about certain tools and tips that we've gathered, some of those tools that we may want to highlight that allows you to automate certain business processes, legal accounting as well, but we're also going to talk about some of the tools and tips that you could look at just as being an entrepreneur. Through a demonstration, for those who do know the legal space and have explored tools, you do appreciate the differences between practice management and legal accounting. They can be combined, but there's a subtle difference in terms of the core purpose that these two business functions provide and the softwares that are available that provide those functionalities. And through the demo today, we're going to illustrate the need to automate and save time and how we're able to do that, as well as look at how we can empower through a collaborative effort, how we can empower small teams working together through this endeavor. Okay, so through that demonstration, which is going to be a lot more in the last 10 to 15 minutes, highlighting certain components the legal accounting and practice management software can provide you. Again, defining who an entrepreneur is. So what is entrepreneurship, or who is an entrepreneur, or even what is an entrepreneur, right? So someone who creates and runs a business is called an entrepreneur. So this was out of Wiki. There are obviously various other definitions of who an entrepreneur is, but this came to me across as a more simplistic aspect to it. And you can relate this to a solo practitioner in the legal industry as well. So you're a paralegal, you're a lawyer, you may have just graduated out of college or school, or you may have had experience working at a firm, and now you're looking to branch off doing your own thing. You may have collected your own Rolodex of clients, and you believe, based on your education experience, that you're ready to take that next step. And what is that endeavor? What is that being an entrepreneur? One of the first thing, obviously, is when an entrepreneur starts a new business, there is risk involved. Okay? And what is that risk? That risk is the chance of losing something. And that something could be many things based on the individuals. It could be stability. It could be financial stability. It could be the ability to find work. It could be just a perceived notion of having a job, right? We've all been brought up in an era, or even previous era, where having a job, having that stable income has all become part of the ecosystem that we're in. So as an entrepreneur, you're already, if you are one and you're trying to be one, you're already disrupting that thought process by taking that first risk. And as you know, whether it's the legal industry or any other industry, when you're an employee in the legal space, you're an employee of a law firm or a legal firm. In other industries, you could be a salesperson working at a software company. Again, because of the employees work for someone else, whereas you as an entrepreneur, you work for yourself, and hence there's more risk in not having that stability and not having a large conglomerate be able to manage your financial needs. Small firms employ about half of the U.S. private workforce. So this was based on a survey that was done in 2015, and they create around 64% of all new jobs. And we don't have those statistics here, but Canada, I would say, is the second close in the developed country arena to embrace entrepreneurial pursuits. You see a lot of companies, small, medium businesses become competitors to some of the larger firms that you see. Legal space, and what we're seeing as a trend with paralegals and lawyers is no different. The opportunity is there for you to make that difference, be that individual that you are, and run your own business. Legal advice, legal space kind of really being the functional knowledge that you bring to that table. Okay? And the last point is, this is another trend, and we spoke about that early on. We touched upon it. One way that individuals gain a little sense of what that business looks like. So if you're a bit of risk adverse, you don't have to necessarily just jump ship, and just get into it right off. You could always gather experience, a little bit of that experience, by working at a firm or working with a partner, not completely taking that 100% risk, but through that experience, learn what it is to be an entrepreneur, and then move on, investigate, and then move on to become one. So, you could always be an intern or apprenticeship, and then really understand what it takes to be an entrepreneur and take that next logical step of becoming one. Okay, so again, who is an entrepreneur? Someone who creates and runs a business, and as a legal professional, as a solo, you are an entrepreneur yourself. And a big component that we want to highlight through this webinar and many of our webinars is if you are a solo, small legal firm, you are an entrepreneur, and a big component of that is being able to run and manage a business. Okay. Why be an entrepreneur at all, right? Because you still have opportunities. You still could be at a legal firm working in a law firm, a legal firm, and could be one of the partners. Grow up the ranks to become a partner in the firm. But as again defined in Wiki, the biggest reward of becoming an entrepreneur is the personal satisfaction that comes from having the freedom. That's really important. I probably should have highlighted freedom to make your own decisions and act on them. Okay, so obviously independence, freedom, having the opportunity to explore and do what you want are all amazing benefits of being an entrepreneur. As much as there are risks involved in being an entrepreneur, these are some of the salient features as to why one wants to become an entrepreneur. We're seeing right from YouTube videos and books that are written on entrepreneurship. All those apply to the legal industry as well. In fact, it probably applies more because one of the key salient aspects of being an entrepreneur is having the skill set or developing the skill set of doing more with less. And not only are you required to run a business and manage the business aspects of it, the profit and loss of it, but you're also, as a legal professional, have the obligation of managing trust money. So you're compliant to the legal society in many ways. So there's kind of a double whammy, if you will. And those are the components that we're going to talk about. Those are the additional responsibilities that you have as an entrepreneur in the legal industry, which maybe an entrepreneur in another industry may not have. Okay, so if you're a freelance writer, there are no compliance rules that govern who you are. If you obviously gather a bad reputation, then that's a different thing, but you're really not going to lose your job because you were not compliant. But in the legal industry, obviously, that's another added risk of going solo, but also being in that space. Okay, so what are the tools available to make that journey a lot more smoother? And that's one of the aspects we're going to cover today. Okay, so making your own rules. When you run your business, obviously you get to be your boss. You know, how cool is that? Doing work that you enjoy. Many times where in a 9-to-5 job, maybe sometimes it's a 60-hour week, and you're still not doing what you like. But you have to do it because that's what you've been educated to do, and that's all part of that ecosystem. But being an entrepreneur disrupts that thought process, and it really allows you to do that work that you enjoy. But a big prerequisite to that is obviously understanding, kind of having a little bit of a self-belief, a bit of an introspection to understand what is that work that you enjoy and do. Okay, so if you're in the legal industry, if litigation is what you like, then maybe there's a certain set of areas of practice that you are better off at, compared to, the areas of practice that differ right from POA, HTA, which are a lot of matters within a single month, to a criminal matter which could take years before you get to a result. There are various factors, and the DNA of these different work areas of practice differ. So as you graduate, as you come out of school, and through that experience, it's really important for you to have that self-introspection to understand the areas of practice that you believe you can excel and bring that differentiation. And as an entrepreneur, then you have the ability to execute on it and go to do that work. Creating greater wealth. Now, isn't that what we all started off this for? Well, that was the fundamental. After maybe the freedom, the independence, creating greater wealth, the opportunity to do that at your own whims and fancies. And obviously, there isn't a limit to what an entrepreneur can make. And obviously, that's subjective to the ecosystem, the environment. But again, if you're in this, having that freedom, having that space, also being able to gather that wealth, that's all part of why you want to be an entrepreneur. And there's a fourth very important component that we're starting to see a lot of legal practitioners provide. And this is something that you do just as part of your DNA. They're helping your community, whether that's legal aid work or whether that's pro bono that you offer as part of your day-to-day business. You're already having that DNA of providing and giving back to the community in many little ways. But tracking that is important. Tracking all that good Samaritan work is important so that you can have a better understanding of your business, better understanding of what you're doing back to the community. But just as an entrepreneur, this is one area that you have, you believe you can give back to the community and make it a better place. So we spoke about who is an entrepreneur, why be an entrepreneur, and obviously we need to cover certain components of the risks of an entrepreneur. And keep in mind, as we speak about entrepreneur, I'm kind of balancing between an entrepreneur as an individual, but also as an entrepreneur that you are in the legal space. Okay? So one of the things we've seen, potential business failures. You start off, again, it's definitely not the best way to start off a slideshow, but it is the fact, and we're trying to get the moose off the table, if you will. Being fully responsible means the success or failure of your business rests on you. But I want you to take home that all these factors mean something when it comes to also the tools and the help that you have today and how you manage your business. Being fully responsible means the success or failure of your business rests on you. So when you start that business plan of wanting to be an entrepreneur in this legal industry, after having assessed the areas of practice that you believe you can excel in, you want to keep in mind how you want to go about executing it. How do you want to stay successful? How do you want to stay profitable understand where you're making mistakes, understand where you're spending your marketing dollars, and how that's helping you. So really the need to track and measure becomes a key component of any business, and even so in the legal industry. You have unexpected obstacles, right? Right from financial obstacles to any obstacle that you may come across that you did not expect as part of your pursuit. Those are things that are risks. Insecurity, financial insecurity is probably one of the biggest risks that you have as being an entrepreneur in the legal industry as well. Many new businesses don't make that much money when you're just graduating and coming out. One of your key focus is not to buy a practice management software or a legal accounting software, is to essentially just find a job and find a work, build that Rolodex, and really go after that, low-lying fruits to make your money so that you can kickstart that business you started off. But those priorities would obviously change. Like the Maslow's theory, those priorities change as you move along and you see small successes that allows you to stay afloat and then build your business one step at a time. And that would be a point in time where, the products, the software, other help is going to come a long way in making that a smoother ride. Okay? But it's important that you measure and you plan so that you can mitigate all these risks. So knowing these risks are a great thing because you have ways or find ways in how you can mitigate them. Okay? And obviously long hours and hard work are just part and parcel of this whole game. We've heard and spoken to legal experts who are entrepreneurs, very successful entrepreneurs who do multiple things. They're a legal practitioner during the daytime. They go, provide lectures at colleges and universities during night. Sometimes they work on weekends. So being that entrepreneur, as much as it gives you that flexibility, it's a bit of an addiction when it comes to putting in those long hours and effort and hard work, because you're doing it with passion and you're doing something that you love. So you're really not going to many times keep track or tab on the time. But it is still important that you do that, again, to measure the success of your business. So if you're putting in 20 hours of work for a particular matter, then it's important that you measure that, regardless of whether you bill your client 20 hours or not. You want to be able to understand right from profit and loss to efficiency rates to, is it really worth spending this much time on this particular area of practice? Having measured that area of practice is really not giving you that kind of money that you planned out to. So as much as these are risks, I would like to reiterate that having that plan and having the necessary tools to measure and take the necessary steps to correct it are really important and become an integral part of you as an entrepreneur and running this business. Okay? So we again spoke about who is an entrepreneur, why be an entrepreneur, and some of the key risks of being an entrepreneur. Take away, obviously, the fact that this applies even more so for the legal industry. And what other additional risk would you consider as being a legal professional, an entrepreneur, but also a legal professional? What is that risk? The risk of losing your license because of non-compliance. It's something that people talk about, and it's a bit of a hush-hush discussion. You find auditors quite often stress that point. You probably have heard that enough during your college lectures. But yes, one of the most important aspects is to stay compliant so that your books and your bookkeeping and the prudence with which you practice being a lawyer or a legal professional is of utmost importance, regardless of which state, province that you work in. And even if you're an employee, it's again, you may have the ecosystem in a law firm, in a really large law firm, where even if you're not that person who is really good with numbers, you probably would still be able to get away because there's an accountant, there are large accounting firms that work with these legal and lawyer firms. But as a solo, as an entrepreneur, you don't have those many opportunities to make mistakes. So it's very important as a legal professional that you keep in mind the risks of losing a license, of being that legal professional that you wanted, of running that business you needed by not being compliant. Okay? So we want to take away how do we mitigate that, how do we make that transition and journey smooth. Okay, now before I get into demonstrating uLaw, which is definitely a big part of today's discussion, I wanted to highlight some of the tools that we've come across as an individual, as a player in this industry. Many of these tools relate to the legal industry, and again, there are many options to these tools as well, but I wanted to have a starting point that you could look at, and you can always Google or search for competitive products across all of these areas, right? You obviously make that decision of which tool or software to purchase, but you need to keep in mind that these subject matter expert tools are available for you to take advantage of. So one of the first things I wanted to highlight was document management. Now we speak about cloud, we speak about how the legal industry is now moving fast towards being that independent person that you want to be. A big part of that independence is being able to access information and access to your information from anywhere. And document management is a very critical component as part of the legal industry, right from the conflict screening reports to the retainer documents to invoices to any document that you generate for your client or documents that you generate for compliance and business bookkeeping are all documents that you probably want to manage. You probably do it, your receipts, the bills that you pay, whether it's a disbursement or the bills that you pay for your business, even if it's part of a shoebox culture today, you want to explore options that are out there. So Google Drive, OneDrive, Dropbox, Box, as you probably know, are very mature cloud-based document storage. And they also provide secure access to storing these documents and retrieving them in a secure manner by having those documents stored online or on the cloud. Okay. Fiverr is one of the tools that we use at uLaw, a very neat service. It's fiverr.com. So anything on that website you could essentially buy for $5. So that's why it's Fiverr, or it's actually $5 and above, $5 and above. So any service, these are outsourced services, whether it's creating your logo for your legal firm, whether it's getting marketing services, whether it's individuals that you want to hire to write content about a certain area of practice that you excel, because bringing thought leadership as a paralegal or as a lawyer would really resonate well with the clients that are looking for you to be represented. Because when you come across as a thought leader, then obviously that's going to resonate well with your client base. And if you are the best at what you do, then your clients are going to hear about it. And Fiverr allows you to market that message through the services that they provide that you can purchase. So Fiverr is a great little tool that you can explore. Google it today and you can learn more about it. They also offer a lot of specialized work within the legal space. Okay. WordPress, Wix. WordPress has been there forever. It's a really great tool, simple tool that allows you to build your websites. You do have other site building tools, but Wix is another exciting new website designer product that makes it easier. They in fact have samples for the legal industry as well that allows you to design websites, have your client intake form right within your website. So these are tools that give you that capability to build in those, client intake forms right within your website, so that you're being very proactive in dealing with your clients. Vistaprint was another tool or product that came to mind. We look at a lot of legal professionals, lawyers, paralegals. One of the visiting card is probably the best foot in the door. You're going to leave visiting cards at Starbucks. You're going to leave it at many different places that you go to. And Vistaprint is a very cost-effective way that you can print, business cards. You can print brochures and any collaterals that you may need for your business. And again, you could go to Google and say Vistaprint, and it's going to obviously give you that. It's also going to give you other players in that place. When you start off early on as a legal professional, as an entrepreneur, you're going to need a lot of help with regards to building that Rolodex based on family, friends, colleagues in the industry. But it's also important for yourself to be able to go out there, network, right? So we're seeing social networking, but it also, in real life, it's great to be actually meeting with people at a networking event. So I find Meetup is one of the newer buzzwords and tools that allows you to network within common minds, within other legal professionals, really understand what's happening in your area. And Eventbrite obviously is a great tool, not just for purchasing tickets, but it's also a great way to understand what events are happening, and if that's something that resonates with you, gives you the opportunity to be part of it. So networking websites today allow you to be part of the society, be part of the community, and also introduce yourself and the services that you can offer them. And I have to obviously talk about the social networking components and the tools that are available to you. Perfect. We just had a friend of ours talk about Glip, which is a great tool. I'll probably add it to the list as well, and maybe talk about it a little bit more. LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter, right? We've all heard that, we know about it. But it's important that, I see a lot of our friends, legal professionals, really maximize LinkedIn. There are a lot of these groups that you can create within LinkedIn. It also gives you the opportunity to participate in law society groups or memberships that are a big part of the whole legal space. There are a lot more membership groups that give you these advantages of not only networking, but mind share and meeting with similar-minded people. LinkedIn is obviously a great tool to do that. For you to market your service, Facebook would be a fantastic venue. You could purchase Facebook ads that can talk about those specific areas of practice that you focus on. And because your end client can be anyone, Facebook obviously is a great tool to do that. But if, let's say, your focus is only on business, and if corporate clients are really what your bread and butter is, then obviously LinkedIn would be a better choice. So it really comes down to your area of practice and what you like to do. And yes, Twitter is for those who really like to get those tweets out and be connected. In terms of saving time and doing more with less, one of the tools that we found that a legal professional should consider as part of their business is the ability to collect payments in many forms. Okay, the most traditional ways of collecting payments today are still through checks. Okay, and again, that's not going to go for the next 10, 15 years. But again, something will disrupt, and you will see the advent of checks being going out. But having said that, checks are a great way, and you have various methods of payment that people provide, money orders. You have electronic transfers being one of those key areas that you see. But if you were to accept trust payments, and you need to be compliant because your trust account should probably not be touched with service fees or any other errors, so that, again, it can save you a lot of time in reconciling. We find a lot of players, including banks, including TD Canada Trust in Canada, appreciate and acknowledge this legal space and the need for solo practitioners to accept these types of payments through credit cards. Moneris Pivotal Payments, which is a relatively newer service provider, as well as TD Canada Trust, and I'm sure it's RBC and other banks, offer you as a legal practitioner the ability for you to accept credit card payments from your clients but ensuring the trust compliance. What that means is if you accept a $1,000 retainer, if that's part of your business, you could still use the customer's credit card. The individual institution who you work with would ensure that $1,000 is deposited into your trust account, and the service fee, which could be 1%, 0.5%, or whatever that number is, would only be deducted from your general account. So they would tie into your real bank's trust account, bank's general account, and then would ensure that. And in fact, uLaw has a direct connection with these third-party credit card payment gateways. So if you use uLaw as your legal accounting software, you can accept that payment right within uLaw, and everything else happens behind the scenes automatically. I had to quote my glory, our glory here. We're a relatively new product, and our ambition or our mission is to make legal accounting simple. Through that, obviously, uLawpractice is a great option as if you're a solo or a small law firm looking for a change or looking for a legal accounting software. We're also a legal accounting practice management as well as a business accounting software. So it's kind of a three whammy, if you will. But there are definitely obviously other products out there that you should explore. PC Law obviously being the #1 product in Canada serving the legal profession, period. But then, yes, you do have the option to choose from a variety. Clio was one of the founding cloud-based practice management software companies. I would not call them as a legal accounting because you still would need a QuickBooks or any other accounting software like Xero that would need to combine with Clio's practice management skills. But again, they are one of those tools available in the industry, and so are we. Okay? We combine the three components and provide better value for our money. I'm glad this is not a CPD session. And then one of the most important components of you being a legal professional is the need for you to stamp that. Every document that you send out of your legal firm requires that stamp of who you are. So digital signatures have come a long way. They're very mature compared to what they were 5 years back, even 2 years back. And we find quite a few players in this space. EchoSign is one of the first and foremost cloud-based products out there that I've seen. What can a little spelling mistake do to a product? So it's actually not HealthSign, but it's HelloSign. And I do apologize for the spelling mistake there. But yes, it's HelloSign, which is one of the direct competitors of these digital signatures. Adobe, depending on the version that you have, also allows you to provide digital signatures. And you will find, including uLawpractice and other products, encourage the use of these digital signatures across their documents. So, if, whether it's a retainer document, it's a receipt, an invoice, wherever there is a need for that. A Form 9A, for example, it requires your signature every time you do that, and you are able to digitally sign it using these tools outside of the other tools that you would have. And the list goes on. I mean, we talk about connection, we talk about JoinMe and WebEx. WebEx is obviously a little bit more expensive. JoinMe is a little bit lighter on your pocket. You have products like RingCentral that allows it gives you that virtual assistant feel. You have voice over IP tools that can provide that virtual assistance look and feel. You could have one phone number and you could be in Australia and it could still be a 416 number that people are trying. Again, giving you that independence, giving you that flexibility that you as an entrepreneur need, right? So I know we've taken the last 30 minutes to only talk about these tools, but these are important. I mean, beyond uLawpractice being a software company that talks about our products, we also want to talk about what this community needs and what entrepreneurship means to this community. And so we're really happy to bring this subject to you without, again, demonstrating the product in its entirety. Okay, so we've kind of talked about entrepreneurship. We've talked about maybe 5 to 10 tools. There are other tools out there, and I'll be happy to share that with you after this presentation. Now let's get a little bit more real about legal accounting and practice management. And, I love this picture that our marketing team put together. energizing yourself and the power of going solo, and I wanted to keep the best for the last. Truly that person who's exercising, I think, with his weight is at a position. It's at a critical position. You can look at it two ways. You can look at it him having done his lift and coming down and ensuring that he's not just releasing it. So that's really you starting that journey and then going through that process. Or you can look at it as a perspective where he's just getting started. He's just got that weight on his back, and now he's going to use his leg muscles to help himself and his core muscles really to pull himself up. So from a legal practitioner's point of view, there are two main components that make a part of you lifting that weight above your head, if you will. One of them, obviously, is practice management. Practice management allows you to do more with less, save time, manage time, because time is money in this business. Allows you to do all those things at a click of a button, if you will. Allows you to manage your matters, allows you to manage your time. And practice management is a term that's loosely coupled with almost all industries. So you could have practice management for a dentist. You could have a practice management for a healthcare system. You can have a practice management software for plumbers as well. Because at the end of the day, it's all tightly coupled, in fact, now with time and the ability to manage time and have the tools to stay on top of things that need your attention, to generate invoices, to make money, to calendarize, things like that. But the one critical component that's required here, which I would consider the core or the legs in this case, allowing you to lift it up, one critical component for a legal practitioner is legal accounting. Now, legal accounting can be accomplished. Obviously, people have been doing this for many years now. So again, why a software and why uLaw or any other legal accounting software? It can be accomplished in many ways. One is obviously through the old school way of managing all of this in Excel sheets and ensuring that you have due diligence to keep that shoebox of bills ready, and then handing that over, either doing it yourself or someone in your family is a really great accountant, which is fantastic, or you will rely on an accountant or a bookkeeper who can help you through the process. And again, that's fantastic because you still accomplish all of those goals by paying that extra dollars, by having that extra help to accomplish legal accounting. Through the advent of technology, through everything that's being commoditized today, how cool would it be to have a software that accomplishes legal accounting behind the scenes as you go about doing your practice management, right? So that was really the core of uLaw, is you be that person who can do what it needs to do or takes to do the legal work, litigate, and then use the practice management software, but then behind the scenes have the compliance, have the documents, have the reconciliation, as well as the audit checks all available to you at a click of a button. Okay? So now I'm going to take the break. The next 10 minutes, I'm going to only highlight components of uLaw. And for those who don't know uLaw, we are a Canadian legal accounting and practice management software. And the next 10 minutes is going to be looking at how critical components of both practice management and legal accounting are accomplished through uLaw. And where I'm then going to open up the floor for any questions. If you have any questions already, we're happy to take that. Okay. And again, we highly encourage you, if you've not tried us out yet, we do offer 30-day trials and would welcome you to visit it on our website. So I'm going to shift gears real quick. I'm going to get out the presentation mode and get into my uLaw. So I'm logged into my fictitious lawyer account called Roger Moore. And one of the fundamental concepts of uLaw is it is cloud-based. So let me take away all my preparatory work. And yes, one quick question that we did have, uLaw webinars. If you go into info.ulawpractice.com/webinar, this is today's webinar, but if you look at it from a CPD standpoint, our next CPD is on the 24th of February, and this would be on the topic of Law Society Bookkeeping Guidelines, and this is accredited for 1 hour of professionalism content for CPD. Hope that answers that question. Again, going back into my uLaw account, we're a cloud-based, Canadian-hosted legal accounting software. So from a practice management standpoint, you have obviously the dashboard, which is your landing page when you log into uLaw, and it really allows you to stay on top of your matters, manage your time, and manage the important aspects of your business as a legal professional. Again, this is definitely a practice management software that's geared towards the legal industry, more so the legal industry than any other industry. So modified matters, we've been working on a lot of matters, and you take a 4-week break and you're back, you want to get back, or even over a long weekend, you want to get back to that particular matter you were working on, you have the opportunity to click on it, get right into that matter. And this is one of the features, again, it's overlooked, but really allows for our clients to stay on top of their matters. Especially if you have a small law firm where there are multiple individuals collaborating. Again, this is a quick and easy way for you to collaborate as well. Very similarly, modified contacts. So if you have an assistant who's doing all the client intake and you're logging in at the same time, having a quick look at some of these newer names, John Appleby and Leanne Moore and the Joseph Childs of the world, those are, you could quickly have a look at them so that you can then appreciate that there is a new client and your assistant obviously has just done an intake. But if you're solo and you're doing it for yourself, then it's going to help you to stay on top of your contacts real quick and deliver or generate a document for that individual contact. You can set up yourself for reminders within your matters. So as you can see, this is a reminder for payment due. You can set, a quick and easy way. Again, part of the practice management aspect is related to that Josh Norman matter. And you can go ahead and click the arrow key and get that work done as well. And you can add a lot more upcoming to-dos and have them taken off your list. Upcoming events, again, time is money, so you want to ensure that you are on top of your calendar. You're ensuring that the tasks that need to be accomplished, both from a matters perspective for your clients, as well as for yourself individually, as an entrepreneur, as someone who's looking to grow their business, is all taken care of in one single spot. So you may actually have an event that's, a time that you need to docket. So for example, meeting with a client was a particular docket that you set yourself up for Alex Johnson, and it's red because it's in the past. You'd set this up for 30th of January. You can just go ahead and docket that time for that particular client, Alex Johnson, for that criminal matter, and you're going to see that being taken off your checklist. So there's one item less to worry about. But let's say you're doing, a webinar like today, or maybe you're doing an in-person webinar or an in-person seminar, about entrepreneurship, about business networking. You can do that too. Okay, so if this was a lunch meeting with a friend, that's something that you want to take care of as well. So it's not only your legal life, but it's also managing your personal life. And the more empty dashboard items you see, the better, right? And now deviating a little bit from that just the core practice management aspects of your business to a little bit more into your legal accounting, but all still within managing your task list. uLaw provides you with one of the most important dashboard items, which is your invoice pending matter. Through research, through the work experience that we have now gained over the last 5 years of working with legal practitioners, one of the key components that we realized is as hard as it is to manage legal matters and litigate and be part of court time and all that good stuff, you obviously have to deliver the work. You have to input that work into some kind of a software or some kind of a system, even an Excel sheet, or even write it down. And you need to You do all of that, but then you fundamentally sometimes forget to raise an invoice or some form of a legal document that you can send your client to get yourself paid. Because a big part of being that entrepreneur, having that freedom, and is also to have wealth. And for you to make that money, whether it's trust money that you're moving from trust to general because of that retainer, or if it's just being paid for the work that you've already done, no matter how big or small, it is important to generate that invoice, which is that legal document that shows the work that you've done and why you're charging your client that money, and so that you can claim that money. Okay? So having that quick list of all the matters, obviously this is not good because you have so many different matters, this individual Roger Moore. So if I were to look at that fence issue and realize that, oh my God, I probably need to get this done, you could obviously notice that at the individual matter level, it tells you the same thing. So you'd actually build this individual an hour and 12 minutes. So let's go ahead and quickly raise that invoice. Okay, so that's kind of really your next logical step, if you will, working off that dashboard element. Okay, and saving you time. And you're going to notice, again, that's just taken off your checklist. As soon as you've generated that invoice, there is no reason for it to be there anymore because its status is different. So part of that time saver, part of the tools that can help you automate and remind you of the right things to do at the right time is a big part of practice management. Regardless of the software you use, you want to keep in mind that these are tools that are going to be very pragmatic and useful through your execution and part of your life. Okay? Moving along with regards to practice management and how we've tied it up very close with the legal accounting aspect of it, if I now go back to recently modified matter, I had just finished that, right? As you can see, it's already up here in your recently modified matter. So I want to click on it. An important component to keep in mind is now that you raised the invoice, a big aspect of it is the behind the scenes in terms of the documentation that goes attached with it. Now you want to know that landlord and tenant was the area of practice that you actually just generated that invoice. Now let's assume you've got that invoice paid for $203. You want to be able to quickly accept that payment, right? And especially when you have a matter that's across these many different clients. So you've got this one individual Jonathan Form having payments across multiple matters. But let's say you need to get that paid. You can go ahead and add that $203.40. And it's really important that you then track which matter it's for. Okay? And uLaw does a balancing act of associating the amount to one of the maximum amounts available. So that's why it's put against the provincial matter. Again, trying to keep you on top of your work and the dollars you spend. And automating a receipt generation. Many times, if you're doing this manually, then you would have to remind yourself to create a receipt for that particular payment that you just received from your client. And again, method of payment, you could say check, or you could have associated it with a credit card payment right there. So automating as part of your overall workflow makes it that much more simpler, saves you time, and lets you do what you do best. Okay? Now this is simple, right? Like you could do this on QuickBooks. It's probably not going to do legal accounting necessarily, but again, from an accounting perspective, putting in work and then raising an invoice, right? How easy is that? Highly commoditized. Because so here's a receipt that the Law Society would like you to generate every time. But then when you look at what really needs behind the scenes, so if you look at an analytics, obviously many of the law firms, big law firms have that. You really want to look at your fee book by client and for this particular month. So you want to look at who are your clients. So here are your top 7 clients for the month so far. And what do you see? You see Mr. Jonathan Form and that $203 fee that you just received from him. Obviously, today you didn't know that. And how you would know that is obviously having a tab on it. But then tools such as uLaw allow you to present that information with lesser time involved, right? You didn't have to dig deep into getting this information. Don't get me wrong, you could still get this information, but there's a lot of research and digging that's required if you're not using software to help you automate it. And if you want to really look at your top categories where you're getting your money, because this is all part of that planning, right? You just get into this, being an entrepreneur, run your business for a month, 2 months. You now want to take a step back and really understand where are you making your money, because you want to make those little adjustments. That's a big part of being an entrepreneur, is having the flexibility to make those adjustments. If POA is not really working out, for some reason the particular geography that you live in, there's a lot of POA experts, and whatever that reason may be, and that reflects on your analytics and that reflects on your business, then you want to make that adjustment. You want to look at, maybe it's not POA. I'm making a lot of money on small claims, and that's where I'm going to put all my, marketing budget towards. So this gives you that quick understanding of where that money is coming from. So this is an amazing month because you've got work coming in from various different areas of practice, right? But again, this is a test database and not a great reflection of real life. Even where are you spending your money? One of the biggest problems that we find legal professionals have is they do a lot of disbursements, and many times it's out of their own pocket, and they don't really understand what's happening to all that money till month end or maybe till year end sometimes, right? Because they're so heads down, and you're so heads down on the day-to-day tasks that you need to get done. Again, using a software today is much easier than you were a legal professional, let's say 15, 20 years back. Okay, so you're sitting on a Saturday morning reviewing this and understanding for this month, where are my top expenses? As long as it's recoverable expenses, like your expenses on client accounts, that's fantastic. But there you go. There's about $1,300 you paid this month for rent. Again, make that little adjustment. Maybe look at a different location for your office, or maybe not. But again, measuring it allows you to make those adjustments, and that's very important as an entrepreneur who's running with their own money. Okay? We talked about legal accounting. So as you generate money, as you get paid, as you go through this whole motion of being a legal professional, it's important also to keep tab on the legal aspects of that, right? The ledgers and the books and the bookkeeping. So what we've tried to accomplish, again, it's a humble beginning, and there's a long way to go as we evolve this product. We've tried to make that much more simpler. So if you're looking for a ledger, how simple would it be if I were to just be able to search for that information? So I know there was Jonathan Form. Whether it's a revenue report or whether it's a ledger, why would you need to spend more time than a click of a button to get to that today, in today's age and time, right? So at a click of a button, you basically have Mr. Jonathan Form's ledger. And there you go. You have that invoice today, February 17th, in a document style that's very close to the bookkeeping guidelines. In fact, it is from the bookkeeping guidelines, and it is compliant with what the Law Society expects. Again, I want to underline a point here that we're not approved by the Law Society, because the Law Society cannot do that. They cannot be biased. But the documents that come out of uLaw are compliant purely because it was built keeping in mind, again, not totally out of it, but keeping in mind the expectation of the Law Society's audit guidelines, okay, or bookkeeping guidelines. So there you go. You got that legal fee for that 2497 that we just raised, and we also got paid through that check. It's right there, and you didn't have to generate this. This is a time saver. This is a big part of not only your practice management, but it led to a legal accounting aspect that is still a big part of you being an entrepreneur, but you being that legal professional in Canada, right? So here's a tool like uLaw that accomplishes the whole workflow of being a practice management software, telling you that you needed to raise that invoice for the work you put in, helping you raise that invoice, getting you through the process of accepting that, putting it against multiple matters if you have to, and then with no additional effort, generating the ledgers and the documentation behind the scene, which is, again, a big part of your legal accounting. And that's one of the core messages that we wanted to leave out part of this webinar is you have amazing tools that can help you be who you are. And uLaw is a humble beginning to be a part of that journey and that pursuit, helping you through legal accounting and practice management combined. Okay, so with 5 more minutes being left, I'm being told that it's a Friday afternoon. We all want to get out and do what we like to do best. So if there's any questions, I'm happy to take that right now before we close out for today's session. There is a question, even before I close, about, again, other efficiencies that we bring. Again, one of the efficiencies that I can think of, one of the biggest is obviously the legal accounting aspect of it and being able to generate all those documents and really removing that fear factor, because there is always that fear factor of compliance, of numbers, both from being a business owner, but also being from a legal professional. It is our mission to alleviate that perceived notion of fear factor, or do what it takes to help you through the process, understand those items, understand the risks, and mitigate and provide you with the solution to do that. And what we also encourage our clients to do is really help brand the whole experience. As who you are, so is your brand, so is your company. A big part of uLaw is allowing you to brand the experience, whether it's invoices, receipts, whatever it may be, giving you the opportunity to brand based on your own logo and your banners and etc. A quick example of that would be a business letterhead, I guess. And there's a quick question about the court forms. Again, don't want to deviate out of today's subject, but yes, court forms are a big part of uLaw's, again, time saver, if you will, part of the whole I don't have to do this manually type of thing. So if you let's look at this particular small court or landlord and tenant form, or I may even look at a small claim matter. You've got, as long as you can associate individuals as parties, which is very simple to do, you can go ahead and generate these court forms that we have. And let's say I want to do a plaintiff's claim and do the Ottawa Courthouse at Elgin Street. We pre-filled that as well. Got a claim number. And again, most of the work that you would do, apart from the mattering and dispersing, are just click of buttons to generate documents and reports in uLaw. Okay. So there you go. Another time saver with the uLaw is the ability to pre-fill these forms with the relevant information. You got Ottawa's courthouse address. You got the claim number. You even got the plaintiff information. So Jonathan form, we smartly understood that Jonathan was the plaintiff only because you've got a defendant, Mr. Adam Brown, and another defendant, Mr. Adam Sandler. So we understand that it's got to be the plaintiff here in this case that you're representing. And it's got your information, or my information really, I'm Roger Moore, and it's got Adam Brown, who's the first defendant, right? So again, a great time saver would be our court form filling. Again, if you are someone who is in this space who needs to generate a lot of court forms, this obviously is an amazing time saver. So again, part of the whole experience, the brand experience. So you would find this to be the logo. You can bring in your own logo. You can have it colored. This is a very simple example of a business letterhead that gets you started. You can do this for invoices. You can regenerate invoices, for that same particular matter that we were looking at, the fence issue. You can brand your invoices. You can brand your receipts. So here's a payment receipt. Obviously, there's no payment, but still, you can bring your banner here. So logo is one. A banner is another one. I can even reprint invoices if I can find where that is. There you go. So please keep your questions coming. One of our partners did suggest the tool GLIP, which I can send you more information about it through our email after this particular presentation, and it's spelled GLIP, which apparently is a great tool for calendarization and being able to share files on the cloud. So here's a simple example of being able to brand your invoice with your banner as well as your logo, or you could decide to use one or the two or both. Again, being very consistent with your brand experience, which is becoming a big trend with the legal profession. Is a big part of the differentiation is the website. A big part of the differentiation is the branding. And just to add to the time saver component, so how cool it would be. So this individual obviously owes you $169.50, and we spoke about the integration with Pivotal or Monaris, where you can now actually just have a link as part of your invoice, and if you can digitally send this to your client, he or she can then just click this link at their own leisure, and you don't even have to follow up, right? And you could just go ahead, provide this access to them, and this would integrate with Monaris or Pivotal and would give you the information right away. Okay, so you hit pay now, and then it actually does in real time. The interface tells you that it's approved. It also gives you a unique reference number. Even better, every time something like that happens, you get an email automated. Again, part of the whole business process automation. You get notified. So this is you sent the invoice today, and your client pays you tonight. This would be in your inbox for you to see first thing in the morning tomorrow. Obviously, you're all excited because you got that invoice paid right away. And there's no manual effort in this whole workflow, right? You generated the invoice, you sent him or her the digital invoice, and with that integration with that third-party payment gateway, you receive that money in your pocket, like almost the next day. So that's really the power of the automation. And as you go through the process, as I showed you, all that's regular school work. What's important and difficult to do are the ledgers, the accounting touch points, which we do all within one. Okay, so I believe there's probably not any more questions. So I'm going to thank you for taking the time to be part of this webinar, and we kindly request that you send us your feedback and about how we can improve this webinar experience for you, and want to remind our audience that we do have our CPD session next Friday, and we look forward to seeing you there. Thank you very much, and have yourself a fantastic weekend.